So, one of the things I hear often is that our system is broken. And by system, you're like, girl, what you talking about? What I'm talking about is our system of governance. Now, the thing you need to understand, the system of governance isn't broken. It was built this way. Now, it was built with checks and balances, as they say. I mean, listen, watch a little Hamilton, you'll understand Alexander Hamilton, right? But today, I'm going to get into how the powers that be, that why we put our heads in the sand and think that we shouldn't pay attention because our vote doesn't count or what have you. You're going to learn how one man has spent practically the entirety of his life trying to break the way this is built. Like, literally, just imagine you are in your house and, I don't know, a woodpecker comes by and starts knocking at the holes and what we call the soffits of your house, the air holes, and starts building a hole. And in that hole, suddenly termites get in. And then termites slowly but surely eat the heck out of all the wood. I said heck because I'm so sweet. All eat the hell out of your house, and your house falls down. It was built to withstand something, but when something that's villainous, gangrenous gets in, it can cause the structure and the framework with which that which it was built on to fall apart. You know what? I'm so tired of trying to figure out why people give a fuck about things that matter so little. But maybe the bigger question is why I give as many fucks the way I do. I'm an outside the box kind of girl. Depth is so much more interesting than treading the surface. And I'm here to pull you along, kicking and screaming if I have to. Welcome to Alchemized Fucks Given, where we decide the economy of our fucks, stop wasting energy on what doesn't deserve it, and do the real work instead. Well, hello, we are here again today. Alrighty, guys, listen. So I decided, and I never talk about this, that I was going to start this new podcast, Alchemized Fucks Given, to kind of talk about things that were trending. And every week I pick a topic. Is broken. And by system, you're like, girl, what you talking about? What I'm talking about is our system of governance. Now, the thing you need to understand, the system of governance isn't broken. It was built this way. Now, it was built with checks and balances, as they say. I mean, listen, watch a little Hamilton, you'll understand Alexander Hamilton, right? But today, I'm going to get into how the powers that be, that why we put our heads in the sand and think that we shouldn't pay attention because our vote doesn't count or what have you. You're going to learn how one man has spent practically the entirety of his life trying to break the way this is built. Like, literally, just imagine you are in your house and, I don't know, a woodpecker comes by and starts knocking at the holes and what we call the soffits of your house, the air holes, and starts building a hole. And in that hole, suddenly termites get in. And then termites slowly but surely eat the heck out of all the wood. I said heck because I'm so sweet. All eat the hell out of your house, and your house falls down. It was built to withstand something, but when something that's villainous, gangrenous gets in, it can cause the structure and the framework with which that which it was built on to fall apart. So here's the thing: this individual has swore under oath to make sure he protected our system. So the fact that the Voting Rights Act has basically been gutted or disassembled. See, this is so it still exists in, I don't know. You guys ever seen The Mummy? The movie The Mummy? You know, like love The Mummy. And I'm very excited that they're doing a Mummy 3. But in the very, very beginning, there's the weird guy. It's not Benny, it's some other dude. I can never remember his name. Does he have a name? I don't know, because now I'm just rattling about this thing. But those little scarabs get in and they like eat him up. and he's like, "Ooey gooey," or they put their hand in that thing and it like sucks it dry, right? It sucks it dry. So that's kind of what has happened to the Voting Rights Act. But the thing that people need to understand is we got a couple choices here. We can be angry, for sure. Be angry. And we can remain um, apathetic, or we can be diligent and start to seek clarity because it's where the clarity is where your power starts. So if we're talking about what the fuck is going on, let me tell you a little bit about myself. We all know, or some of you might know, that I'm older than I probably look. But that's up for debate, y'all. Don't be coming for me going, this girl thinks she be looking a certain way, or this woman. And I think I do, but that's beside the point. I am older than I look. And the thing that I have said on my other podcast, By the Cover, and I'm not sure whether I've said it on this one, is that I am the first person in the group of my siblings to be born with the right to vote. The first. So the Voting Rights Act is about 3 years older than I am. And so all of my siblings, the first four that come before me, were born with the right to vote. So what I'm saying here is for you guys to understand that um, it is a crazy thought process that in my lifetime, where I woke up one day and I had the right to vote wherever I lived, we're now sitting in a place where that is no longer a guarantee. It's not a guarantee that I'm going to have the ability and right to move from state to state and just automatically have the right to vote if I move into a certain district. If I've been, my vote has been, in all essence, neutered. It has been spayed. I don't know. I'm talking like that probably because I'm a cat lady. But it's been diminished. The power with which I thought I had the right has gone away. So I'm watching over time, over the last several years, all of these rights I thought I had that my kids were born with, they no longer have. Um, they're being just folded. Um, they're being like folded up and put into somebody else's. I'm taking you somebody else's pocket, and I'm feeling to myself like, not today. Today is not the day that we're just going to lay down and fucking take it, right? I mean, I think we've been fucked enough um, in this country to understand. Oftentimes, it's like we try to understand why somebody, honestly, men, and I don't want this to become a men hating podcast. I got told one time that I didn't like men. I love men most of the time because I love my dad. I love my brothers. However, I love my nephews. But men, oh, we give them too much power. And this is another one of those situations where I think that, we have done this thing. So I started out by saying there is a man that has worked his entire life to dismantle this, to take away the rights, the way that we show up for our bodies, the way we show up in spaces, you know, our mental health and wellness, how that gets affected, because it does, it affects all of this, right? I know you're thinking I'm going to say the old orange dump truck, but that is not who I'm going to be talking about. I am going to talk about Sir Chief to Chief Milk Toast Chief Justice Roberts. He has made it his mission since the 1980s to dismantle the Voting Rights Act. So this man at one point worked in the Department of Justice as a lawyer. He probably would be one of the lawyers that are currently sitting in our current Department of Justice. But he worked for Ronald Reagan. Oh, Ronald Reagan, the Gipper, the guy that everybody seems to love so much with his addled Alzheimer's brain, who was really good at making people believe that what he was saying, because he was, after all, a former actor, um, that he was actually there to support all of us. And it seems crazy to think that everyone loves him. Well, everyone in the Republican Party loves him. And he's still the person that even some Democrats go to say, back for the party of Reagan. The party of Reagan is how we got into this mess, right? So when John Roberts, who is, like I said, our current Chief Justice, worked for the DOJ, his task was to figure out how to get rid of the VRA, Voting Rights Act, right? So he wrote, which you can, if you were able to go to the National Archives, you would see this. He wrote 25 different memos on how you could basically dismantle the entire Voting Rights Act. Okay, so you can hear my cat. He just meowed. That's Espers. That's SP. You can probably see his tail in the picture. There he goes. He's like trying to figure out what to do. So the thing that Roberts decided to do, a man who has never once had to labor under racism, not once in his life, has made it his personal project to weaken the law protecting people who've had to live this way. I mean, honestly, I want you to make it make sense, right? Make this make sense. Why is somebody who this is not harming him in any way, shape, or form, has decided that it is his mission in life, his villain origin story, because he is a villain, to dismantle this thing that is not affecting him. I mean, from the very start of his life, he was born. The man is older than I am. He was born with the right. He was born, which is crazy, literally crazy. So he has spent so much energy fighting the Voting Rights Act than most people will spend on anything in the entirety of their lives. He has spent, let's see, 2/3 of my life fighting to dismantle this. 2/3 of my life. Listen, the only explanation I can find is that he wasn't born a gorgeous Black woman who has had to fight for everything, but continues to show up every single day. I don't know. It's like, I think about times when, somebody has told me that he gets the right to decide what my experience is. There's somebody in the top of my head I can think of right now. I've had my joy of sitting next to white privilege in my lifetime, a wink. Um, and it is crazy what you see when you're being gifted the luck of the draw or the luck of the ring, shall we say, that, I don't know, somebody will tell you they understand more. I literally had a conversation with somebody, this has been several years ago, where I basically accused them of being a racist. Now, this person is very close into my life. I'm not going to get into how close into my life there is, but they're close in, and they're white privilege personified. Literally had a whole conversation about Colin Kaepernick when Colin Kaepernick was still in the NFL and he had taken a knee. This person had the caucasity to say that because Colin Kaepernick was born with the privilege of being adopted by two white people, he somehow or another had more privilege than a white man. And I was like, sir, if both of you were exactly the same size, let's just say he is not the same size, look, or you get it, of Colin Kaepernick, and a robbery had been committed and you're wearing exactly the same clothing. If y'all are walking down the street, you're the same height, same build, and they're going to look for somebody and the person couldn't remember anything besides what the individual was wearing, Colin Kaepernick is going to get arrested before this individual was. And literally, he's telling me this as a white man that he understood more than I did what racism could look like in the face of it. I was like, sir, I'm going to need you to sit down. Sit down and let's get a divorce. Guys, John Roberts, he worked diligently to get this thing basically dismantled. He's like writing memos. He's like literally like I don't know who writes the owls in the Harry Potter, dear Mr. Potter, you have been cordially invited to, I know J.K. Rowling, it's a whole thing, but let's just put that aside. That is what I think John Roberts was doing. Just imagine that, I don't know, the courts are Harry Potter on Privet Drive, and John Roberts' memos are flying through the little mailbox hole in the door. That is what this had looked like back all the way back then, in the way back in the way back. His whole life, he's worked towards this. And all of a sudden, there's an opening on the court. And George W. Bush, oh, Georgie, has himself a judge he wants to put on the Supreme Court. Yep. John Roberts gets nominated and he gets approved by the Senate to sit. I don't believe any of this came up. I'd have to go and look. I did not look this up about whether or not he had actually been questioned about this. There used to be a day where they would question somebody about something like this and they wouldn't get on the court. Although Uncle Tom Clarence, he got on and he was whole kinds of sexually harassing Anita Hill. So girl, listen, guys, listen, them, they, there, listen. I can't tell you whether or not it would have worked or wouldn't have worked, but it doesn't matter because he got on. And one of the things he did tell the Senate when he was under oath, because that's what they're supposed to do. And listen, it's become a parade of clowns when they come into their confirmation hearings. They be out here, you're like, oh, I'm gonna, tell the truth and da 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 da. But then they've got this thing called stare decisis, and basically it means they're talking about the precedent. It'll hold the truth of what's come before. Ooh. Anything that has come up, they have said, I won't remove it. If the Supreme Court has said this thing, it's precedent, and we're going to hold to that. So that's the legal precedent that we're talking about. And that he said that he would treat established law with deference. He would say, if something were to come up in front of me that has already been decided by a previous Supreme Court, we're going to hold to the letter of the law, and that sets precedent. And I need to say, every single one of the 6 current conservative justices on the Supreme Court each said that. They each said that in some version under oath. And so they've gotten on the court and they've done the exact opposite. Every single one of them, every single time. I think sometimes we get kind of shocked when we do hear like Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, or Roberts will like side with Sotomayor, Jackson, and Kagan. It's weird. I think they're trying to lull us in, like they got fish on and they hook the hook and they're like, got you and you're going to get here with me and I'm going to believe in you. And it's like, I think they do that. I feel like they do it on purpose. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it feels as though that's what they're doing. It's like, you ever had the situation where somebody tells you, okay, so you're at the store or you buy this outfit because, you're like, I don't want to I don't want to try this on, right? You don't want to try this on. And so you've got that one friend, or I don't know, if you're a woman, this guy in your life who you're thinking that if you're a cisgender woman, you're like, oh, he's going to tell me the truth about this outfit. And, you got this outfit, right? You put it on and there is nothing about this outfit that is flattering, cute, anybody should wear outside. I think what somebody said to me last night was, while we talked about the 80s having great music and making the best choice films, and yes, some were problematic, we just don't do it like that anymore. We don't make music like that anymore. We don't make movies like that anymore. But of course, the clothing and the hair, problematic. So anybody that is telling you that this is what you want to hear the whole time, being like, "Ooh, girl, you should not be wearing that. And honey, I love you, but I can't be seen outside with you like that." This is basically what all these justices have been doing. So fast forward, he got on the court as a regular justice. Some dude left because it's always a dude. It's never going to be a woman at this point. It would be great to get to a point that we had a female, a chief justice like Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm just saying, 2013, there was a case during Barack Obama's second term that it was Shelby County. It was Shelby County. It's like the Shelby County gut punch, right? So Shelby County v. Holder. Now, the thing you need to know is that every single time there is a case that goes before the Supreme Court and it's the United States versus, it's always whoever the sitting attorney general is at the time, whoever is sitting in that main attorney general's position. That's who it is. So it happened to be Eric Holder. And what Roberts did, he wrote the majority opinion in that case. The way the Voting Rights Act worked, there were several sections. And one of the sections is Section 4, Section 4B. Vitally, vitally important. Section 4B was basically how they calculated. Calculated is kind of a weird word. How they decided based on a formula of identifying which states had a history of discriminating with voting practices, right? And then they required that these states get federal approval before changing their voting laws. Now, the thing you need to know is that what John Robertson, and he wrote the majority opinion. I forgot to add this earlier. So when he was writing all those memos, one of the things he was doing was creating this structure where he got really good at making it look like in his memos as he's writing them out that they were going to remove like little pieces and parts. Like imagine you go to IKEA and you're going to buy one of the Glurb. I don't even know. What's a Glurb? But Glurb is the name of this amazing bookcase that it's one of the new ones that they have. And you get it home and you realize you don't all have all the Glurbs nuts and bolts, but you have that little Allen wrench, right? And you're like, it'll be fine because you're probably building it with a man who's not going to look at the instructions and is going to believe he can do anything, even though a third of the screws are missing. So you put the Glurb together, right? Glurb goes up against the wall and it literally tells you with the Glurb that you need to attach the Glurb to the wall with the little Velcro-y thingies, which I don't know anybody that actually does this. I'm bad about this. I just push it up against the wall and hope there's no earthquake. So the Glurb is Section 4B of the Voting Rights Act. So with that being said, they basically removed the formula for this about states who are problematic having to get federal approval before they change their voting laws. The very same day that decision came down, Texas decided that they would change their voting laws. So if you think that that's a coincidence, that's the plan. They have gotten really good at it. This is a long story long. Let's try to make it short. Texas, bitches. They decided that they would basically make it difficult for anybody that didn't have the right state ID or the right federal ID to basically vote, which in fact caused 600,000 voters to be locked out because they were so strict about the type of ID you needed to have. So much strict that the one thing that was included in it was a concealed handgun license, which of course Texas, because they go big and they go wrong. So if we look at where we are at now, what happened with the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, because basically by dismantling 4B, it then in effect dismantled Section 5. Section 5 was getting into, we're trying to talk about the whole pre-clearance. And pre-clearance is part of the formula. The formula is the pre-clearance, which is 4B. By gutting that made B, which is the states that had to go to the federal government to get approval. that had been known to be discriminatory and would discriminate against, that would create poll taxes, things of that nature. A poll tax is when basically you're required to pay in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like paying for an ID you can't afford. I don't know, a passport. We'll get into the SAVE Act at some point when we talk about that, or a state ID or a driver's license. But what if you're somebody who doesn't drive and for whatever reason you don't have your birth certificate to get your state ID? What if that's the case? Well, now you can't necessarily prove who you are because the cost and the impediment to getting it, right? So there's that whole thing. If you got a concealed handgun license, which I'm sure you might have to have, I don't know. I don't understand how this all works with the state ID and the concealed handgun license. Anyway, what the courts found, because then people challenged that. So Texas immediately, Shelby v. Holder, 2013, Texas immediately, the same day that this decision came down, like they were waiting, they decided they would put these weird restrictions in place for these voter ID laws. And the courts found out that the legislators, who put this together had identified the IDs that minorities were least likely to have and be able to require. So they did it on purpose, right? So now when we look at Louisiana, which is the Calais decision, this is the Voting Rights Act they ruled on about a week and a half ago. So you had 6 conservative justices gut Section 2, which basically said you cannot create maps. You cannot gerrymander a map, right? You cannot draw this weird outlines of a map for a district if you're basing it off a race. Now, you can do it if it's partisan. That is allowed. So basically, immediately, all of the state legislators in Louisiana got on it. The governor got on it. Now, you need to know, most of you probably know at this juncture, Louisiana, their population of Black voters is about a third of the state. And they had one national representative in Congress. One. You'd think they'd have at least 2. Not the case. So the mechanism that would allow people to have some type of recourse basically is gone. Black people have to, or anybody that feels discriminated against, unless I guess you're white, would have to prove that somebody had shown intent to discriminate against you. So why the fuck is this happening right now? Like the real reason. Power. Plain and simple, baby. Power. They've been saying for at least a decade and a half, white people in America are about to become the minority, and they will no longer be the majority. Interracial marriages, people coming in from other countries, South American countries, people coming in from Africa. It's changing the demographic of how this country looks, right? You got Black, Latino, young voters. Everybody's growing. It's like if you can suppress these votes, that's how you're going to preserve the power structure that's basically aging out. Like this huge baby boomer population, part of Gen X. Baby boomers are aging out. It's Gen X's generation that starts to make that transition and shift, right? Of interracial marriages, just people coming from other places. And one of the things that I think is important here, because you're trying to figure out, why does this matter to me, for my body, my space, and my mind? And it's because something that people say all the time: I don't do politics. Well, babes, honeys, y'alls, politics does you. The thing you need to understand is the origins of the word politics comes from ancient Greece, from the word politikos, which was of, for, or relating to citizens and public life. And so if we're talking citizens, and that stems from polis, polis, which means city or city state. Basically, it's all being derived from of, for, the people of the state. There we go. That's what we're talking about. So that's why it's important to not put your head in the sand and to understand politics. Clearly, we've already seen Roe fall. And it's just these dominoes are just going to keep on falling. And it's going to affect the way your bodily autonomy, body, the spaces you can get into. I don't know, transgender people in the military. Boom. And your mind. And like right now, I think everyone feels like we're in a fucking mental tornado with everything that is happening right now. Every day. Literally, I was talking to somebody earlier and we were talking about the last time there was a tornado apparently recently. And nobody's heard anything. Unless I guess the people who were in the tornado, they heard about it, right? You haven't heard anything about our federal government stepping in. The last time there was anything big that dealt with the federal government in this current administration was the Hill Country flood in Texas. And we haven't heard anything since. Literally nothing since. So when you look at the Voting Rights Act, the reason people feel like certain individuals, the villain, John Roberts, felt like it has to go or needed to go is because minority voter, the participation is increasing, making the minority voters or parts of the Democratic Party, because their tent is so much bigger. I mean, honestly, Republicans need only do one thing: have good policy. Have good policy, put it to the people, they'll vote for you. But instead, they're like, let's take away as much power as we can and not change anything at all, except for how we allow people to vote for the people they want to represent them. And so there's just this weird control illusion, I think, that we thought we had. We thought the law protected us. We thought that when they said precedent meant something, it actually meant something. We thought if they said it under oath, that they would hold to that. And that we're finding out none of that's guaranteed. And that gap between what we believed and what was true was this illusion of control, that we could take our eye off the ball and they would do what they said they were going to do. And we need to understand that this is not a time to be pessimistic. It's a time, I think we need to understand, it's a time to be clear, because it's like not looking at your bank balance and you keep spending, knowing that occasionally money's going to go in, but you don't ever know how much money you actually got. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. And we've outsourced so much of our protections to other people. I mean, we've trusted the court. We trusted that it would hold. We trusted that they would take it, that their oath. We've constantly looked outside of ourselves. And we've seen exactly who the system was built for, who the system was built to protect, right? Cisgender white men. And I think this is kind of something that we tend to do in our personal lives. We like wait for somebody to validate that we belong, that we're enough, that we deserve to take up space. And the answer has never been out there. The answer has always been in here. And that's what understanding what your right to vote is. The answer to that power, that control, has always been in our hands. We got told that our vote didn't matter. And a lot of people believed that. A lot of people believe that. I'm surprised by the number of people who haven't been voting since they turned 18, or the closest year there was to when they turned 18. That has shocked and surprised me on a level that I was raised. I was raised to believe in the power of voting. And I guess because so many members of my family, were in the military, I grew up a military brat, I have a different look on this whole thing. But that's the thing that I think is interesting. So like when you think about this, like who gets to vote determines the controls of our healthcare policy. reproductive rights were overturned by the same people who said stare decisis, it's precedent, it's settled law. They just said that they would do this thing, right? They're not going to touch it. And women's bodies were literally legislated by people who were elected for those who weren't suppressed. They're outside of Coney Barrett, who voted for this shit, and also she has black children, which is a whole nother conversation that at this point, girl, give them back. I don't know, but it's a whole nother thing. Um, that, right? That whole thing. These people are legislating us out of things that have the control over how our bodies are allowed to be healthy or to not be healthy or to get care or not get care. And then, if we're talking about the way that redistricting determines who represents your neighborhood, the spaces you live in, the schools you go to, the schools your children go to, the resources that you have available to you, because it happens at the local level. So we need to learn that taking up political space and taking up the physical space that we reside in, they're the same fight. They are the same thing. And like I said, something different has been happening since this man stepped back into that White House that he's trying to tear down along with our democracy. Every day, people are kept overwhelmed and they be trying to keep us uninformed. That is part of the strategy. Confusion is the tool of control, people, is the tool. So, what the fuck do we do now? I think the first thing to do is to stop being surprised that when a system that was built without you acts like it doesn't include you. Stop being surprised. It wasn't built to support you. And so the thing we need to do is change the way the system works. And the way that you do that is you got to get out and you got to vote. Like, know what your rights are. Know your state's current ID requirements. If you live in probably a southern state, know that now before you need them. All right? Know what your rights are if you get turned away. Do you have the right to submit a provisional ballot or affidavit that might exist in many states? Help one another. Help other women, especially elderly women and women of color who are the most impacted. Help them navigate the barriers, right? Inform yourself. Support places like the NAACP Legal Fund, the ACLU, the Brennan Center. And then every opportunity you get, every chance, educate yourself. Go to actual good sources. Don't go somewhere where somebody's lying to you, making you feel all nice and pretty. We know where that leads. Get educated and talk to the people in your lives, not just in social media, in the comments. Get out there in the everyday and talk to people. All right? Mm, the thing that I want you guys to remember, these people have been playing this game for so long that it's time that you start playing yours. Okay? Listen, seen, loved, heard. Get yourself out there. Human to human connection. We got this.